addressing what we said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, look at the top line. Ein mevorchin. Okay, we are on the top of the page of Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Morning, Akiva. It says Ein mevorchin asheyotu aner asheyotu. You cannot say a bracha on the fire unless you have benefit. One of Yosef Tzaddik. Unless you have benefit.
Boker Tov, Rabbi.
Boker Tov. And the Gemara is now going to explain this point. If there's a fire in the room, someone lit a fire, but you're not benefiting from it. You're on the other side of the room. So it sounds like from the language of the Mishnah, and that's going to be the halacha, that you cannot, you're not covered. You're not covered by the Borei Meish. You're in a room, big room like this room. I'm saying, if I'm going to stand and say Havdalah right here, where I'm sitting, there's another guy where Mr. Haber sits in the morning, where Mr. Haber sits on the other side, he's not going to have benefit from this light. It's too far of a distance to have benefit. And therefore, by Havdalah, people have to come closer, or they have to be close to the fire to be able to have some benefit from the fire. And when I say there is some benefit, the Gemara is going to say, the Gemara is going to clarify how much benefit you need to have. That we'll see today. But now, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav. Everybody have it? Ariel, you got it? Top of the page? Lo yeyotu mamash. He had a very lenient understanding of the Mishnah, which is not the halacha. He says, you don't actually have to have benefit from the fire. You just have to see the fire and have the ability to have benefit. You have the ability to come close. So therefore, the potential is good enough. So therefore, if someone's standing on the other side of the shul, and I'm saying Havdalah right here, even though he sees the fire, he doesn't have any benefit, but since if he would want to, he has the ability to just walk close. He has that potential to come close. And if he would be close, he would have benefit. Therefore, you created a fire that the person has the ability to have that benefit. That's good enough. That's the opinion of Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. And lakol she'ilu omeid bekarov. As long as if you would stand close, umishtamish l'ora, and you would have benefit, you could use the fire. Afilu barachok makom. Even if you're far away, and Rashi says, as long as you see the fire, you're covered with the borei ma'arei ha'esh. That remember, every person technically has an obligation, a responsibility to say a bracha on the fire. It's just that we just one person covers the other guy in the bracha, but he doesn't cover him in the seeing of the fire, of the benefiting from the fire. Like we said yesterday, Mr. Haber, people might not realize when the person says the bracha of B'samim, you say the bracha of B'samim in your house. So the bracha is covering the members, they hear your bracha, but every member has to smell the B'samim. It's not that, okay, Mr. Haber said the bracha of B'samim, and then automatically everybody is covered and they don't have to smell it. Every individual has a mitzvah to smell the B'samim. It's just the bracha covers, the bracha that one person says is as if Shomei Ka'ona, that every person said the bracha, but every person needs to, right? Your wife has to smell the B'samim. It's not good enough that you smell the B'samim.
So you both
have to smell the B'samim. You both have to, let's say. So if both don't smell it, and one says the bracha, then we have a problem. Because that other person did not fulfill their obligation of smelling the mitzvah of smelling the B'samim. Each person needs to smell the B'samim. See, people maybe, I think where the mistake lies, is that Havdalah, there's only one person who drinks from the cup of wine. Generally speaking, maybe unless you're accustomed that the women drink from the cup of wine. Many people do not have in contrast to Shabbat, that Shabbat is a mitzvah. Even though technically we said yesterday, everyone is not it's not something you have to do in order to fill your mitzvah. If someone makes kiddush and the members that listen to the kiddush do not drink from the kiddush, technically they filled the members who were there fulfilled their obligation of kiddush. It's a mitzvah. It's a minamuvcha. Ideally, every person in the house should drink from the wine, but they don't need to. If technically, if like in some Ashkenaz places, the rabbi makes kiddush. He drinks from the wine, and the few people in front of him drink from the wine. Not everybody takes a cup of wine. Ideally, it's ideal that everyone should drink from the wine, but they don't practice. It's not. Shalom Aleichem. Practice. There's another seat right there at the table. There's another seat right there. It has your name on it. It has your name on it. See next to Ariel, there's your name. They give us seats here. For high holidays. You know what I mean? But in contrast to so people make that mistake, and everybody gotta misbehave or smell something. Everybody gotta benefit from the fire. Not good enough that the guy who makes Havdalah can benefit from the fire. We all gotta benefit from the fire. What? That's why you come to the class. That's what I always say. That's why you come to the class. That's the purpose that we should all. Exactly. Okay. So now, but like we said yesterday, the one who says the Havdalah needs to be a little patient and wait till the members all smell the psamim. Shouldn't just say he makes the bracha and then. But that's like I said yesterday. The Sfardim, everybody gets their own psamim. At least in synagogue. I don't think. The synagogue? I don't know what they're doing. They pass around them some. Everybody has. Right? They try. We're trying. My mother-in-law, Rebbe London, says trying is not, but she tells us trying is not good enough. We got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because trying, we got to make sure that, Morris, you got to make sure that they're not just trying. We don't try to eat supper. We eat supper.
You have to have a big enough capacity. Whoever distributes this has to have big enough capability of reaching out and getting to everybody.
Exactly.
They don't have.
That's why in a large shul, the smart thing, everyone gets hadassim. Many shuls, or everyone gets this. They divvy it up before Havdalah, so we're ready to roll. We're all ready to roll. There's no big interruption. That's the way to do it. They do it right. Okay. Now the Gemara says, every individual needs to have those personal obligations. Just like reading Megillah. Everyone has to read Megillah Esther. It's just that the Baal Koreh covers everybody, but you're listening to the Baal Koreh. So it's not good enough that he read it and I'm in this. I need to listen and focus and be an active participant. Now, V'chein Amar Rav Ashi, 5 lines from the top, and Gimel of Beis Morris, Yaron. V'chein Amar Rav Ashi, Berachos Makom Shanim. So we have 2 Amoraim, 2 great rabbis, Hall of Fame, first ballot. They both hold that you do not actually have to be close to the fire, but you have to, as long as you see the fire, and if you would walk close, you would benefit, that's good enough. That's a very lenient opinion, and that's not going to be the halacha. The halacha does not follow that. You need more. You have to actually be close enough at the time of the bracha to act, and you have to be close enough to the fire that you would be able to benefit from the fire. The potential that if you're standing on the other side of the synagogue and you see the fire, but you're not close enough to benefit from the fire from where you are, that's not going to be good enough. And that's what we're going to see in the Gemara. Meitive. So the Gemara challenges this approach of these rabbis. What does the Gemara say? Meitive. I'll ask you the following question. A person had a fire that he was holding. Let's say it was in his chest, and it was hiding in his chest. He had it. It was lit, but it was hidden. And some say he hid it underneath his armpit. A strange case that a person, it's in a lantern. It's in it, or it's in something, or it's it's in something, and he's hiding it, but it's hidden. It's lit, but not obviously. It's not obviously seen. Meaning, the Even Ezra some say, the Ritva says, even though you're benefiting from the heat, you feel the heat of it's a nice winter night. and you feel you're hiding the fire on you underneath part of your body, and you're benefiting from the heat of the fire, but that's not good enough. It's hidden. You have to be able to see the fire. Benefiting from the heat of a fire is not good enough, right? We said that the fire has to be made for the purpose of visual aid, to be able to, right. But look, very good. But the way we know that is from, this is one of the sources for that. But we're bringing this arrow not for this part, we're going to need it for another part.
We knew that
From the Gemara before, right? But very good. But what the Gemara is bringing this bright, this is one part of a, we're now we're bringing a bright down, which is going to tell us multiple cases, and we're interested in one specific case from this grouping of cases. Okay, so it says if it was hidden underneath in his bosom, you know, that's a in his lap. In his lap is there usually, that's how you usually translate cheko, in your lap. It was hidden. Ubepanas, or it was in a glass type of lantern, and it was covered. It was totally covered. The fire, and let's say you don't see. One way to translate this Gemara is you don't see the fire clearly through the glass, through this glass. It's not a type of glass that's see-through, or it's the type of material that takes away from someone like frosty or something, like even like you see like a light bulb type of you know, even if you say there's a fire inside, but there's something that you don't see the flame. I don't know, unless something may depend, you might not, you don't see the flame. So here you don't see the flame. Let's say that's how you could translate this. Shara, I shall have it, because there's a whole discussion in halacha. Can you say a bracha on a fire that's contained in a container, and it's see-through, and you could see the fire through the glass? Right. You have the holding a glass over. You're right. Making Havdalah outside, and you see the flame through the glass. So what do you say? But you don't directly see the flame. There's something that's interrupting. You know, it's not. So some say no problem as long as it's a see-through. You see the flame through the glass.
Well, when they say benefit, right?
Right.
Are they talking strictly light benefit? What about heat benefit?
Right. Light benefit. We're only interested in light. That's the only thing that heat is not making, does not help us for Borim Moreish. Exactly.
what about seeing?
And we're only about seeing. And so in halacha, you have to look, there's a whole discussion. As you notice, we always make havdalah on something that's an open fire.
I was gonna say, it's interesting because the rule is you're supposed to use 2 wicks, right?
Right,
So
right.
Two sources of the fire, so like when you use a bonfire, you got multiple pieces of wood.
You could technically, you're right, you could use a bonfire if it's made for lighting purposes. The idea, technically, the halacha says if you don't have 2 wicks, you can even make havdalah on one fire, on 1 wick. If you're stuck. Obviously, if we don't have 2, we take 2 candles, we put them together.
So you electively use a bonfire, so like if you're in your house, go outside, light a fire.
100%, might even be better, because we say ideally as a torch. Like a large fire, we want a large fire. And we spoke about some common explanation, because one idea is in a large fire, you can see the different colors of the fire.
That's
Which-
why the glass is not good.
Why is the glass not
That's why
good?
we said this.
There's 2 opinions. What's the issue with the glass? Why not? What's wrong, Aaron?
Oh, we said that it's one rabbi said that we have to see different color in the light.
So it maybe through the glass, and maybe you can see the different colors. If it's a clear glass, Aaron, if it's a clear glass, see through. Look at your cup. Like make believe that it's made out of glass, so you can see right through it. But you see, the custom is not to. We always say on a exposed flame, right?
So the reason why it's covered is
Oh no, that's a good question. Maybe it was outdoors, like Ariel said, and maybe it was outdoors with some sort of something, and therefore they protected the fire. Or as you know, fire, fire is something that's very dangerous. And sometimes having that out, that covering. So some will say, don't say Havdalah if there's a fire in a glass, contained in a glass, if it's open on top the glass. It's on all the four sides, the glass, but like many of our glasses have, like a yahrzeit candle has, it's not covered, there's no covering on the top. So if you position the have that so we should not, we also said don't make, the problem with a yahrzeit candle is that it was not lit for lighting purposes, like for some other purpose, in honor of the dead body. If we said the chavos, I said don't say amoreish on a yahrzeit candle, but let's say any candle in these, you go to the store, they sell in the stores all these candles, that's the glass, and there's a fire, and you make, and the fire's inside the glass. So some say just put the glass in a way that the top is exposed, right? Say the bracha. If you hold it like this and everybody just sees the flame through the glass, then you get into a question. But if you hold it like this, you tilt it in a way that everyone actually sees the opening of the glass, and everyone actually sees the fire itself. So that's definitely good. In halacha, there's a discussion. If you don't see the fire itself directly, but you see the fire only through a glass, is it good or no good? So that's, I wanted to bring that from our Gemara. There's a whole, based on this word of the Gemara, the panas, that how you translate and how you understand this container that's containing this fire is based on that is a discussion in the halacha. So again, the fire is in this covered in this this glass, or osharoya, and it might not be glass. Like I said, it might be something if we could translate it as a frosted type of thing. So you don't really see the flame. Osharoya shalev. Well, we have another case. You see the flame. Now we have the flame is exposed. The first cases were it was hidden. It was hidden underneath your armpit or in your chest, or hidden, or it was hidden in some sort of container that you don't actually see the fire, or you saw the fire but you lo nishtamesh l'oro, and you did not use the fire. You see the fire, but you did not benefit from the fire. Or nishtamesh l'oro, or you benefited from the fire, v'lo ra'ah shel hevet, and you did not see the fire. It's no good. We need two things to be met. Eino rovarech, you cannot say the bracha. At sheyireh shel hevet, you see the fire, but that's, and like Yaron said, v'yishtamesh l'ora, and you benefit from the fire. So we need two conditions to be met in order for you to say the bracha. You see the fire, and you're benefiting from the fire. And now the Gemara is going to analyze and explain the case. What we have to, in order to understand something, you need to understand the case, what the case is talking about. So now the Gemara says, Bishlama, the table, we can move the table a little bit so you won't have to strain your back. Is that better? Bishlama mishtamesh la'ora. The case of using the fire, what's the case that you're benefiting from the flame, but you did not see the flame? So make believe, the Gemara says, let's say it's like a hallway. Let's say the hallway, there's a turn in the hallway, right? So you put the fire at the corner, right before you make the turn. So, and you're on right on the other side, but right by the turn. So you see that you're benefiting from the flame, but you don't see the flame. But the flame is, they put the flame here, and I'm standing over here. So I could see, if I'm standing here and there's a turn in the hallway, the flame will illuminate the area, but I don't see the flame. Let's say if I would be standing right here, and the flame is right outside the door here, and the door is open, so I see the light because that flame is there, but I don't see the flame. I'm benefiting from the light. That's no good. Even though I'm benefiting, the light is, but I need to see the flame. That would be the case, the Gemara says. In my Gemara, they have a picture. Here's a guy standing over here. See, he's standing here. The flame is right here. So the flame illuminates the area, but he doesn't see the flame because he's blocked by that corner. Okay, we got picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say. So that's the case. So the Gemara says, Ella, but then that's that the flame is on one side and one corner, and you're at the other side. But Ella, Ra shall hevet. What do you say? We are now first wide line, end of the first wide line of the Gemara, about 8 lines from the top. You have it. Ella Ra shall hevet v'lo ora. When you see the flame and you do not use the flame, what's the case that you see a flame and you're not benefiting from the flame? Most probably, you're away, you're at a distance. I see it, but I'm not benefiting. So that shows us it's not good enough potential that I see the flame and I have potential to use the flame. I have to actually use the flame. Potential here is not good enough. So that's what the Gemara is questioning those rabbis. Those rabbis who said you do not actually need to be close to the flame. You just have to have the potential. If you would come close, you would benefit. That's good enough. We see from here that's not good enough. Because the Breita says, like Yaron said, you have to actually benefit from the fire. Seeing is not enough. That's Mr. Haver, is that clear? That's the Gemara's question on the two rabbis. So the Gemara is going to say it's not a knockout. It's not a knockout. The question was, we had two rabbis who explained the Mishnah that when the Mishnah says you're only allowed to say the bracha when you benefit, it doesn't mean you actually have to benefit from the fire, as long as you have the ability to benefit. If it was a fire that you could benefit from, that's good enough. That's what those two rabbis says. A fire that was large enough that if you would come close, you would benefit from the fire. You could say a bracha on that fire, even though you actually are not benefiting from the fire. You're on the other side of the synagogue. And Mr. Haber's and someone's making Havdalah here. Another guy standing by the other door. And you see the fire, but you're definitely not benefiting from the fire, unless it's a barn fire. But you're not benefiting. Average fire, you're not benefiting. You're all the way, you're not having benefit that's enough benefit. Because we're going to see in the Gemara, you have to have benefit. You could distinguish between two different coins. That you might not have that level of benefit if you're all the way on the other side of the room and someone's holding a candle here. So that's the Gemara's question. The Breita states that it's not good enough to see the flame. You have to also benefit from the flame. So what? And if you just see the flame, it's not good enough. So what's the case that you saw the flame? You're on the other side. The Gemara is suggesting that it's referring to you're on the other side of the room, and it's not good enough that you have potential to come close. Potential to come close is not good enough. That's the Gemara's point that the Gemara wants to bring from this Breita, to question the two rabbis. Is that clear? Everybody got it? That's the Gemara's question. And the Gemara shoots back, no proof from this Breita. Because we could say that the case of the Breita is not that you're far away, rather you might be close by, and you see the flame, but the flame is a very weak flame. That's what the Breita says. If you see a flame, but if you don't benefit, why are you not benefiting? Not because you are on the other side of the room. Maybe if you're on the other side of the room and it's a strong flame, that's good enough. Potential is good enough, but there's no potential here in this flame. That's what the Gemara wants to say. The problem is when the Breita says that you cannot say a bracha on this flame, because this flame, there's something wrong. This is a defective flame. Why is it defective flame? It's too small. It's too small. It's very weak. It's not giving off sufficient light. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says.
If you come closer, it might be a better light.
Say it again.
Because maybe he's far.
So the Gemara is saying that the case is not that he's far away. Because the Gemara wants to say if you're far away and it's a good fire, perhaps you could say the bracha meaning you could fulfill your obligation by seeing the fire and being far away, as long as the fire was a significant fire, that if you would come close, you would benefit. But why can't you be? Why is this? What's the problem with this fire? because there's no potential for you to come close and benefiting from the fire. Because the fire is very bad. It's a bad fire. A bad fire is not, you can't, because it's so weak, you can't fulfill the obligation of Borei Moresh by looking at such a fire. Everyone, is that clear? That's what the Gemara wants to suggest, is why the brightness excludes this case. Nathan, is it clear or not clear?
The fire they lighted over here, does everybody benefit from that fire?
Wait, Saturday night when they light here? Right, but right.
No, we see the fire, but like,
If they would close the lights, right? You don't have to come, if you close the lights, would you have, depending where it could be where you're standing in the synagogue, would say whether you would benefit, that if the lights would be closed, would you be benefiting in a place where you are?
And you're still getting benefit from it, but somebody's head is blocking the actual.
But do you see the flame? If you don't see the flame, then you need to see the flame. But that's what the Gemara, you need to see the flame. You need two. You need to see it, you see the flame, and actually benefit from the light of the flame. So if they would technically close the lights in the synagogue, and the place where you're standing, if you could, you would benefit an amount that you could see the difference between your fingernails and your flesh. That's why they do this. So that shows you that you're having benefit. If you could see that this is my nail and this is my flesh, that means I'm having benefit.
I don't need to. The fire.
If you're in a dark room, there's no flame, and I want to look here, I won't be able to see.
When you do this, that's why you're holding your fingers in that way, is to see the difference between your flesh and your nail.
Exactly. So now you know that there's many other reasons, but that's the main reason why you're doing that, because that shows you that you are having benefit. And if you don't see the difference, move closer so you actually see the difference, right? If I go ahead, it makes the bracha Borei Moresh, and I look at my feet and I can't see what the difference. Move closer.
No, but what that's like the Gemara, it's not a good fire. I can see it.
Right. So therefore, we're going to make sure it's a good fire. That's why you notice we use nice Havdalah candle. I told you I took out a new Havdalah candle. I took out my new Havdalah candle. Make sure the fire is nice and strong. And
I'm surprised it's not more of a
So that's what I was going to say. So how come people don't shut that?
because the thing with the lights, it's a good question.
Mine's too. It's a nice like vibe.
Right, that's why it's becoming more popular. But I think the point is because you made a fire that where you're standing, you would have benefits, and that's good enough. They don't say you have to. You made the fire specifically to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of Havdalah. They should be able to, and that fire itself, as is, if you would turn off the lights, you would benefit from that fire. Where you are, that's sufficient. But
it's exactly the same case.
They do it in some of the places, but
growing up, never saw such a thing,
It's such an
right?
easy thing that I feel like people would enjoy. You know?
they did.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the common, to my knowledge. It's only more recently that I see it's happening. Yes, yeah, Ron. Yes, what you were saying?
No, it's basically what the Gemara says, what we did today. More or less, because we don't have always benefit from the fire, but we can see it within the place.
But the Gemara is but the halacha is gonna say you need to bend. Yeah, but I'm saying the Gemara is gonna say it's not good enough if I will be standing far away. Yeah, wrong. The Gemara, I mean the halacha is gonna say. The Gemara says
The fire is weak itself. It's not a good
No,
fire
no.
because-
no, but again, is the fire, if let's say to make the fire in the synagogue, you use a nice candle, and where you're standing, if the lights would be closed, you would have benefit. Where you're standing, you don't have to, as long as that's fulfilled, that where you are, if the lights would be closed, you would benefit. That's good. But if you don't, if the lights would be closed, you would not have benefit from where you are. No good. Even though there's potential to come close, it's not going to. You actually have to be in a spot that where you are, you have the ability at that spot to benefit from where you are. Now, so the Gemara says, "Lo kegon da amya v'azla. The case is where it's amya v'azla, where the fire is going down. The fire is very weak. That's when the Breita says it's no good. But if the fire would be strong, the Gemara wants to say, perhaps the Breita would say it's good enough, even if you're not close by. That's what the Gemara wants to say. Those rabbis will explain this Breita. But the Gemara wants to say, the Gemara thought we had a knockout. The Gemara wanted to use the Breita to question the opinion of the two rabbis that were lenient. Two rabbis came along and said, you don't actually have to benefit from the fire, you just have to have potential to benefit from the fire. You don't have to actually be close to the fire. You could be on the other side of the room. As long as the fire is strong, even though you can't see it, you see it. You don't benefit from where you are, but if you would come close to the fire, you would benefit. That's good enough. You don't have to be standing close by. You could be on the other side of the room, but you see the fire, that's good enough. That was a lenient opinion. The Gemara questioned them, but the Breita seems on the surface to indicate it's not good enough to be on the other side of the room. But the Breita says if you see the fire, it's not good enough. You have to benefit. The Breita says you have to use the fire. So that seems to question those rabbis. Those rabbis say you just have to see the fire and have potential to come close and benefit. And this Breita says, no, you need two conditions to meet. You have to see it and benefit. That's the Gemara's question. How could you just say seeing is enough when the Breita seems to be saying you have to be actually benefit? So the Gemara says the Gemara wants to say in defense of those rabbis will tell you that this case of the Breita is not a question on their opinion, because the case of the Breita is talking about when you see it and the fire is not strong. You're not meeting the condition. There's not even the potential. That's when the Breita says it's no good. There's no potential. I don't have the ability to come close and benefiting from the fire because the fire is weak. That's what the Gemara wants to say. But if the fire will be strong and I have potential to come close, maybe I could fulfill my obligation. That's what the Gemara is trying to do over here, is to see if this Breita, this case of the Breita, is it a knockout on what these rabbis said? Does it go against those rabbis? And the rule is, if you're a later rabbi, like from a certain period of time called Amoraim, you will not argue on you do not stand the chance against the early rabbis. The rabbis of the Breita, the rabbis of that time period of the Mishnah, the Breita, those rabbis, we follow those rabbis over and therefore if the later rabbis say something contradictory to those early rabbis, they will not go. Yes, there was time. So anytime, right? Because the law doesn't change. Meaning, if morning, Isaac, the law of if the early rabbi says something, the later rabbis will not go against the early rabbis.
There's a concept of first of all, that the older generations know more, got the physical verbal. There was more connection to it. By the time it hit the next generation, it was more diluted. So that's why there's all this discussion that they say that you do this, you do that. So the Tanaim more the time of Mishnah. They wrote the Mishnah, and Amoraim come and interpret all that and then give opinions. So you don't go ahead and contradict something that someone above you who knew more at the time.
They're greater, meaning
there's exceptions like the Beit Din gets together and then the other rabbis get together.
But they can undo certain things. Sometimes if they're greater in wisdom and number and so on and so forth. But the general, it's like no one's going to come today. If let's say the Rambam, even today, I mean, generally, you can understand it, a rabbi that lived 1,800 years ago, rabbi today is not going to go say, I know better than that rabbi. No, but usually, but he would base his opinions on rabbis that he would find early opinions probably with him. A person doesn't just go at certain periods, you have the respect and say they knew better. so to speak, or they're greater. So if you're, as long as you're within a certain league, and I can argue, and you can argue with me, I can argue with you. But if it's a different league, minors, majors, if you want to use that,
Is that a
no,
rule? Or it's unwritten?
it seems to seems to be a general rule. Right. A new person's going to come around and say, I'm arguing. That's why a person's not going to wake up today and say, I'm arguing on the Shulchan Aruch. But Rabbi, no rabbi, and if I could use the expression, what? Okay, they're in that period. Exactly, they're in the period of the Rishonim. They can argue. No rabbi is going to say, I know better than the Shulchan Aruch. I'm going to come. The Shulchan Aruch gives a law, and I know better. If Rabbi Vadia ever said difference, it's because he has other opinions. But no one's going to say something that's clearly Shulchan Aruch says something, and this is the accepted. No one's going to say, and no one argues. I want to wake up today and say, I argue on the Shulchan Aruch. Okay. Now the Gemara says, Tana Rabbana. Continuing the Gemara. Gacholam lachashul. If you have coals and they're burning coals, and obviously you have to see some sort of flame. It's burning. You see the fire, some fire in the coals. B'vorchan aleihem. You say a bracha on these coals. And now to address you, it's the coals that you made for lighting purposes, not for cooking. You know, we know about coals. You want to make a barbecue. What? Very good. That's the question. If it can be both. So we had from the Gemara before that if it's made, if it's multi-purpose will be fine. We had from the Gemara before that as long as it's made for lighting and some other purpose. We had in the Gemara like we had. The Gemara says if there was a shamash who lived in the shul or he ate in the adjacent room. So even if the lighting was done for the purpose of, let's say, in honor of the rabbi that came to the synagogue, but if the shamash is, but if it's also made for the gabbai to eat from, to be able to see, to eat, so it's multi-purpose, you could say a bracha, but it's also made for the purpose of lighting purposes. So multi-purpose, a fire that's made multi-purpose, you could say the bracha on. But if you make a fire for a barbecue, right? And then after Shabbat, they made a barbecue. Now, I don't know why they didn't say Havdalah right away. They said Baruch HaMavdil. They said Atachanatanu. They forgot to say Havdalah. They forgot. Oh, they have Baruch Haba. By the way, he's in the third parak. We should know this is he's been here before. But you're back. It's not that he wasn't here before. It's not a chef. We all say Arot said the Shuvah. All Arot said the Shuvah. So what is it? If you say you could say a fire. So Motzei Shabbat, if a guy makes a barbecue and he forgot to make Havdalah, then he says, I want to use the fire to say a Baruch. You can't, but that fire was made specifically for eating for the barbecue. So here, if the fire on the coals, if it's omamod, but if the fire is weak, if the fire is going out, it's not really burning, the coals are going, fire is going out, you cannot say a bracha on these coals if they're on the way out. So the Gemara says, Heichi dami lo chashod. What does it mean? What does it mean that the fire of the coals are burning that is considered enough of a strength that you're allowed to say a bracha on those coals? Omer Rav Chisda says, Kol she'ilu machnis letocham kisem. If you would stick a little twig in those coals and v'doleket me'aleh, and boom, it would it lights or like lights like not that you have to stick it around and we're moving around and blow on them. Just put this in, touch the coals like someone lighting a cigarette, and it's like a lighter. Then that's considered a good fire, and then you can say the bracha on that fire. Okay, I want everyone to get ready. We have to be daven with fire. Prayer. There's a book called I think by Irving Bunin, Prayer with Fire. Prayer with Fire is a good book. How do you like that? Everyone heard that? Praying with Fire. Yeah, David, very praying with fire. You heard it here. Yeah, everyone go look at it. See, Morris is already looking it up and getting it out. See that? What'd you say? Yes, very good. Good morning, Mr. Cohen. Have a great day, everybody. Isaac, thank you for joining. Everybody, Thank you, Nathan. Thank you. Morning, Mr. Cohen, Boker Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good day.
Yosef, have a good day, Yosef. Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Rabbi.
Thank you for being on. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.